right, and we're back with another Married Truth Talks. I am your host, Marianne, and this is the MemTT Show. All right, so before we begin, follow me on, I almost forgot, I was going to say Truth Social for a second there, Instagram and TikTok and X. I am posting now on X. So it's Mary_Truths with an S. It's Mary_Truths with an S. And if you believe in the wellness mentality, go and invest in wellness with us with our Patreon account. And I'm not talking about being a free member. I'm talking about actually investing in your health, because that is coming very soon. We are opening up a bigger platform very soon, and those who are actually investing are going to actually benefit from that. So let's begin with the show. All right, so a lot of stories to catch up. A lot of things have been happening, so let's get on with it. New executive order over flag burning. That's a new one. A lot of people were lost their minds over this. White woman is charged with saying the hard R N word. Remember, I went berserk over this like a couple months back. Well, the story to be continued, apparently. Appeals court ruling on citizenship. That is huge. We're going to talk about that. RFK continues to purge the CDC. Also a huge story. Fed Governor Lisa Cook allegedly committed mortgage fraud. The irony is funny. Minnesota trans shooter. That is a very sad story, but we're going to talk about that. And going to war with Venezuela. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. Let's get on with the big one. Well, they're all big, but you know what I mean. New executive order over flag burning. Let's watch that video really quick. I'll tell you when to stop. I'm ready.
Country. Let's go.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You could do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement.
Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone.
All right.
Never had a problem after that.
That's it. He likes to rent. All right. So I'm going to read. It's called Prosecuting Burning of the American Flag. Our great American flag is the most sacred and cherished symbol of the United States of America and of American freedom, identity, and strength. Over nearly 2.5 centuries, many thousands of American patriots have fought, bled, and died to keep the stars and stripes waving proudly. The American flag is a special symbol in our nation's life that should unite and represent all Americans of every background and walk of life. Desecrating it is uniquely offensive and provocative. It is a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation. The clearest possible expression of opposition to the political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. Burning this representation of America may incite violence and riot. American flag burning is also used by groups of foreign nationals as a calculated act to intimidate and threaten violence against Americans because of their nationality, place of birth. Notwithstanding the Supreme Court's ruling on First Amendment protections, the court has never held that American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite this is where it gets important, imminent lawless action, or that is an action of amounting to fighting words, is constitutionally protected. See Texas v. Johnson. Okay, so Texas v. Johnson, I believe I looked that one up. If you can go to ChatGPT and search Texas v. Johnson, I looked it up, and from what I can remember off of memory, they ruled that you cannot arrest somebody. So the government doesn't have the right to arrest me for burning the flag because it is offensive or provocative. However, if I am burning the flag on private property or in a park where there's children around and it's seen as something harmful, then I can be arrested. Not because of the fact that I'm burning the flag, but because of the fact that by me burning the flag, it is creating how can I put it, a danger, an imminent danger in the environment, because there's kids around, it's hazardous, and they can potentially charge me for arson. Can you look up really quick?
Yeah, so I found what the case was about. Okay. It's basically that the Supreme Court ruled that the burning of the flag is a form of political protest and is protected by our First Amendment.
Okay.
But says here the court struck down a Texas law that criminalized flag desecration, stating that the government cannot punish expression simply because it is offensive.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay, so, but it goes deeper. Okay, did you look it up, or did you search what I had already looked up? Because I already looked this up.
No, I just asked Chat what it was.
Oh, no. I need you to search up what I had already, because Chat gave me a whole thing of it. Because the court ruling said you're not allowed to arrest an American because of the fact that it is provocative or offensive to people. But if you are in a public place and you are burning the flag, you can be charged for arson because you're in a public place. So like you're not getting arrested for burning the flag, you're getting arrested for burning the flag in a public place. You know, like if you're burning the flag in your house, then it doesn't matter. You're burning the flag in your house. That is your First Amendment right. You can record yourself burning the flag in your house. But one thing is you burn the flag in your own property. Another thing is you go into a public park and you're burning the flag. That's not the same thing. If you can look that up while I continue.
Well, like what specifics about that conversation do you want to talk about?
Because I asked it specifically. You cannot arrest somebody for burning the flag, but where are they burning the flag is where an arrest is warranted, is where there's a jurisdiction for an arrest, and it's not a fact.
You asked it if a person can be arrested for burning a flag, and it said yes, but only if they break another law while doing it, like violating fire safety ordinances, starting a fire on federal property,
right,
inciting violence, or causing public danger.
Right. So then, for example, burning the American flag in a public park where there's kids around would be a reason to arrest you because it's hazardous. You're burning something where there's children around. You know, then people will say, oh, but you can have a cookout at a public place. Yeah, but that's different. There's an actual tool for you to cook food in. You're not cooking food in the grass. You know, you're cooking food in a barbecue. Whereas on a flag, usually most people don't put it on a barbecue. They put it on the floor and then they put it on fire. You know, that's hazardous. That's a reason to arrest you. And it's not about arresting you because you burn the flag. It's because where you decided to burn the flag is the reason to arrest you, which is what my understanding of this executive order is they're not prosecuting people for burning the flag. It's not a ban on burning the flag, because that's a violation of the First Amendment. It's prosecuting people who are committing a crime while burning the flag.
Yeah, he should have worded that a little bit better.
What?
Trump.
Yeah, well, he's not a lawyer, so
yeah, I know,
people are expecting a little too much from him. This guy is a business dude. He's not a lawyer. He has lawyers to word the executive order the way it's supposed to be written. But that's what
because it came off as if like, yeah, you just can't burn the flag.
Exactly.
You just can't do it because I say so. Like.
Right, but at the end of the day, like, you can't go off of what he says, and you have to go off of what actually what's written. Like, because that's at the end of the day, that's what matters, is the executive order itself. That's what the executive branch is meant to enforce laws. So if they're creating an executive order, that's what they're trying to enforce. Right. What he says is irrelevant. It's what the executive order says. That's what matters.
Which we're going to get to now, right?
Right. So then it continues to say, in cases where the Department of Justice or another executive... Oh wait, I skipped one, just kidding. Measures to combat desecration of the American flag. The Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent possible of our nation's criminal and civil laws against acts of American flag desecration that violates applicable content-neutral laws while causing harm unrelated to expression. Consistent with the First Amendment, this may include, but is not limited to, violent crimes, hate crimes, illegal discrimination against American citizens, or other violations of American civil rights and crimes against property and the peace, as well as conspiracies and attempts to violate and aiding and abetting others to violate such laws. So, again, they're not arresting you for burning the flag. They're arresting you if you've committed crimes. So, if they can find probable cause of you committing arson, then yes, they're going to charge you for arson. Because you shouldn't have been burning a flag in a federal jurisdiction, for example. If you are a patriot, if you believe in your First Amendment right, then you can do it in your own private property, right? We're Americans. We have the best private property laws in the world. So why don't you exercise your private property laws and burn your American flag in your house?
Who the hell is going to do that?
Like,
the whole point of burning the flag is to send like a message, right? And you're not going to do that at your house unless you're recording it, I guess.
There you go. But why do you have to do it in a public place?
Because it has more...
You don't really have jurisdiction in a public place.
Yeah,
it's public.
No, for sure. It's just the reason they do it is because it has more of an impact. Because they know cameras are rolling and people are watching.
But at the end of the day, then what are you trying to show? Do you really believe in your First Amendment right, or are you trying to get clout? And just trying to get cameras to, like, you're trying to get attention. Like, what is the motive here?
I think it's a bit of both.
Honestly. Like
a little bit of clout, a little bit of exercising the First Amendment right.
And then at the end of the day, like, it really just depends on how you do it too. Because, well, we'll get to the veteran, because a lot of people were complaining about that. But let's get to this really quick. So blah 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 blah. Okay, here we go. In cases where the Department of Justice or another executive department or agency determines that an instance of American flag desecration may violate an applicable state or local law, such as open burning restrictions. So there's laws on where you can burn anything. You can't just burn, just like there's laws on, like, you can't just smoke there wherever you want. It's the same thing. Disorderly, this is the same thing. Disorderly conduct laws or destruction of property laws. The agency shall refer the matter to the appropriate state or local authority for potential action. To the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, the Attorney General shall vigorously prosecute those who violate our laws in ways that involve desecrating the American flag and may pursue litigation to clarify the scope of the First Amendment exceptions in this area. And then it goes by saying the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security within their respective authorities shall deny, prohibit, terminate, or revoke visas, residence permits, naturalization proceedings, and other immigration benefits, or seek removal of the United States pursuant to federal laws, including a bunch of laws, whenever there has been an appropriate determination that foreign nationals have engaged in American desecration activity under circumstances that permit the exercise of such remedies pursuant to federal laws. I mean, for you to like not be an American and you're kind of burning the American flag is pretty crazy. To be honest with you, like you're being a little risky there because you're not a citizen yet.
Yeah,
they can deport your ass. So I don't know why you would do that.
I mean, if you hate this country so much,
why the fuck are you here?
Yeah,
you know,
you can just leave.
Bye. Go back to your country. All right, so let's watch.
But also, you got to think about probably most of those people are paid to do it.
Which is what he was saying, you know, like.
Because it doesn't make sense that you're like an illegal immigrant or just an immigrant in general. You come to this country to quote unquote have a better life. That's why you come here, and then you're burning the flag. No, it doesn't make sense. They probably got paid.
I just don't see where is the impact on burning the American flag.
Like I mean, it's
you know what I'm saying.
I think it does incite violence. I think it does incite.
Yeah, like I don't see
aggression.
How like where is the positive impact of you burning the American flag?
No, it's to send a message.
But it's not a positive message.
No, it's not.
So then, I mean, I'm not saying you should. I mean, it doesn't really matter, positive or negative. You should be allowed to send whatever message you want. That's the First Amendment right. I'm just saying.
Right, whether it's offensive or not, you should be able.
You should be able to do it.
That.
However, if it invokes violence or if it invokes, disruption or chaos or destruction of property, then we have a problem.
Line, yeah.
And from what has been shown already in the past, look at what happened in California. They were doing that over there. The protests were actually riots and they were burning American flags. So for somebody like me that I don't see how that's appealing, I'm going to automatically be like, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't do that. If you believe in your First Amendment right, then you exercise it in the right way. You get a license or a permit or however it is. Make sure that there are no codes on burning. You do it the right way. That way there's no reason for you to get arrested. If you're not looking into any of that stuff and you're just doing it just to prove a point that you have a First Amendment right, then yeah, you're asking to get arrested because you didn't do your due diligence in the first place to know whether you really were able to do that legally or not. And the reason why I'm also talking about this is because a video, I don't know if it went viral or not, but everybody was talking about it. A veteran decided to burn an American flag in Lafayette Park right in front of the White House right after the executive order. So if you can put that really quick, that's the next video. It's a Forbes video.
I got a Fox.
Hold on.
That's what's
It's right after. It's right. I don't know if you go back to the. Yeah. See, it says prosecuting burning the American flag. The one right after that. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I missed that one.
There you go, fam.
Do this for every single one of you American citizens. We burn this flag in protest to that president flag. We do this for respect for our citizens and our constitutional rights. What? I'm not putting it out. I can burn it. It's my right.
You can't actually burn it.
Executive order.
But he didn't do his due diligence.
Put forward today. According to that executive order, I should be in prison. Starting to fire, so we're trying to bring it over here. Second thing is to show that this president and his lackeys
Can you hear it?
do not believe.
You can barely hear it. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You can barely hear it.
You can't hear the actual video?
In the First Amendment.
You can hear it, but it sounds far away.
His lackeys.
I'm not sure what happened with that.
See if you can. I don't know. He's burning the American flag on federal property. And he says he has a right to do that.
Amendment right.
He doesn't have a right to do that. And that's my point.
I mean, Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Like, he decided to do that, didn't bother to look into whether he was allowed legally to do that. He obviously wasn't. That's why he got arrested. And then Forbes was actually not as left as they usually are, and they were just showing you the whole thing. But CNN made it seem like he was arrested for burning the flag. No, he was arrested for burning the flag on federal grounds. They missed that little detail that was very important. That was the reason for arrest. It wasn't the flag burning. It was where he decided to burn the flag. And that obviously is a reason for arrest, because you are committing arson on federal grounds. So, like, no, you don't have a right to just commit arson. You know, like, yes, you fought for your country. Thank you for being a patriot, but you don't have a right to commit arson. So this is a part where, like, people are so radicalized that they think that they can just, like, use their rights to just kind of like defy laws. And it's like, yeah, I can do what I believe because this is my First Amendment right, or this is my Second Amendment right, or my, like, no, that's not how this works. There are laws. You have to follow the laws. You can apply your amendments, but you still have to apply your amendments in the confines of the law. And if you don't do that, then obviously there's going to be a jurisdiction for arrest. That's how this works. This is a law and order country. This is not a third world country or a second world country. This is a first world country, right? We're supposed to be progressive here. So for progressive people that we're supposed to be, we should understand what the laws are and how we can apply our rights within the laws. That, like, I don't understand how this is like a violation of the First Amendment if you were to just do your due diligence and apply your First Amendment where it could actually be applied legally under the law. But apparently, according to the left, I'm authoritarian for believing that. But hey, whatever. I guess if you want to follow the law, that makes you authoritarian. Fuck it. It is what it is. All right, let's talk about this. Another one. This is wild over here. White woman is charged with saying the hard R N-word. All right, this is the Shiloh, whatever, the white chick that I said make the N-word great again, and I wasn't talking about the hard R, I was talking about the regular N-word. So, you know, my video almost went viral. Wasn't there yet. It's all right. And so that went dead, that story. And then the what is this group called? Double NCP or double whatever.
I have no idea.
The legal group that's mainly black and fights for civil rights cuando le conviene.
NWA?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not NWA. What am I saying? I'm here like, yeah, no, it's not. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It's a legal group.
You don't know who the NWA is?
The freaking, the rappers. Yes, I caught on to that. I was like, no, it's not them. But whatever. Point is, it's a legal group that fights for civil rights, in quotations. And after hassling the Attorney General of Minnesota, she finally charged this white woman for calling a black child who apparently does have autism that, that she called them the hard R N-word. So let's take a look at that.
Attorney filing a summons complaint charging a woman with disorderly conduct after she went viral last spring for allegedly using a racial slur against a child. Tonight in Olmsted County, several people are praising this move. Fox 9's Babs Santos went to Rochester to learn more about it. He joins us now live with the details. Babs?
Well, Randy, part of the process here was the city attorney trying to get input from the victim's family to make sure that that family wanted to move forward with charges. However, there were 3 families actually claiming to be the family involved in all of this, so it took law enforcement some time to figure out which family it truly was.
So we don't really know if this family is really the family.
Today, the city
what
attorney
you're saying.
moved forward with these charges.
It's about what we can do within the letter of the law, and while it's frustrating and there are different opinions.
Many people in Rochester have been waiting for this day since last April. waiting to learn if Shiloh Hendricks would be charged with a crime after allegedly using the N-word to rebuke a Somali boy
Hard
with
R
autism
N-word.
who reportedly took a pouch of
Not the same thing.
applesauce from her diaper bag. An encounter at this Rochester playground that went viral on social media.
But yeah, I don't agree with it at all. I don't agree with using that kind of verbiage.
This week,
But you think she
charges
should be
came
charged?
down. 3 misdemeanor counts of disorderly conduct with a maximum sentence of 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. In charging
Unbelievable.
documents, authorities say the 36-year-old was hostile and racist to the 8-year-old child.
Being racist is
all
not a crime.
because of a pouch of applesauce. The child's parents allegedly feared Hendricks would strike the boy, and Hendricks allegedly said he was about to hit him for taking her son's
But
stuff.
she didn't.
I think it's justified that she's being charged. I think it's completely unjustified her reaction to the situation, especially being a child. Special needs or not, a child's a child.
Now, Mayor Kim Norton hopes her damaged community can begin to heal. Already, there have been protests,
Minnesota has
community
fallen.
conversations, and an NAACP town hall.
NAACP,
Conversations have
there
been
you
very
go.
difficult surrounding the First Amendment and First Amendment rights, but words do hurt people.
All right, that's it. Words do hurt people. Oh my God, words hurt people.
Sticks and stones.
Oh God, Minnesota is like, what is wrong with Minnesota? Like, what is in the water there? Honestly,
Fluoride.
like, what is going on there? All right, so yeah, I think this is ridiculous that they are charging this woman for saying the hard R, because that is a violation of the First Amendment right there. That is an actual violation of the First Amendment. The whole flag burning thing, like, that's the fact that people were really complaining about the flag burning executive order and nobody's actually talking about this story tells you that nobody actually believes in the, like, people that are claiming violation of the First Amendment don't actually believe in the First Amendment, because they're saying you can burn the American flag even if you're not actually following the law. You can burn the American flag, but you're not allowed to say a racial slur. So you don't understand what the First Amendment means. That means you are allowed to say a racial slur. That's what the First Amendment is. Can you confirm if hate words are protected speech? Pretty sure they are. But confirm that for me, because I want to be 100% honest here on this channel. Okay. I don't speak truth. I seek truth. Not the same thing. So I want to make sure that, you know, I'm on the same page here with the laws.
Yep.
Okay.
They are generally protected under the First
So
Amendment.
hate words.
Unless it crosses specific legal lines.
Okay, like what?
Speech that seriously threatens someone with violence.
Okay, that didn't happen.
Encouraging others to commit immediate unlawful acts.
Didn't happen.
Fighting words, harassment.
What are fighting
obscenity.
words?
Direct personal insults, like to provoke a violent response.
That didn't happen.
Harassment, repeated or targeted speech that creates a hostile environment.
Okay.
Obscenity, not protected. But
So-
this is a separate from the typical hate speech.
So they could have used what is it that she said? What is it that you said there?
What? Said a lot.
Hostile, create hostile environment.
Yeah, creating a hostile environment and incite violence.
No. You said something else after that. I can't see it.
Repeated or targeted speech that creates a hostile environment.
Okay, repeated or targeted speech. So they can use that, but even that is very slim. Very slim. But you know what? I want this to actually go far into the court system.
But
I
like,
want it to go far.
What does hostile environment entail? Like, what would that look like? What does it mean by hostile?
Like okay, I'm
Like
gonna play a
inciting
devil's
violence.
I'm gonna
assuming?
play devil's advocate by her saying the hard R N word to this kid, and then that other dude that was recording her, who by the way was convicted of abusing a child sexually, by the way, just fun fact, confronted her, and then she repeatedly said it towards him, like she didn't care that she got caught saying it. She continued to say it. And then that went viral, that video. So that incited people to get angry about it. And then people started funding her for her protection, which made the other side even angrier. So I guess, that's the only thing they can really use to defend this charge would be that. Like, it incited like an environment digitally to go buck wild over this. But I still think that's not enough to charge her. Because again, hate speech, it's protected speech. So digital hostility is not the same thing as actual physical hostility, which didn't actually occur. So I want this to go far. If this can go up to the Supreme Court, by all means, Shiloh, you go win, girl. I'm gonna tell you right now, you go win. Because the First Amendment is on your side on this. And people might say, you are disgusting. I can't believe you are condoning this type of behavior. No, fam, I just want to protect the First Amendment right. And that means hate speech is protected under the First Amendment. If you believe in the First Amendment, I don't even know why this is a big deal. You should be able to say whatever the hell you want. People, if this actually, like, let's say this goes all the way up to like, I don't know, an appeals court, and they say, no, it is not protected speech, and it becomes precedent that saying the hard R and word is not protected speech. Then that means you can't say, cracker. You can't say, what is it that they call Hispanics? Spics, wetbacks. You can't say any of that shit because it's all reasons to charge you. And then what do we become? We're no longer a free country. We're going to be just like the UK, where we are literally going to get arrested for the things we say on the internet. That's what this is going to lead if they were to side with the charge. If they were to side with the charge, we're no longer a actual free speech country. We're no longer a liberty and pursuit of happiness country. We are an authoritarian country. If this actually reaches like an appeals court and they say, no, the charges are correct, she shouldn't have done that, that is not, a protected speech, then we're fucked, because at that point, how this can lead a downward spiral, this can lead to massive censorship. People like me that are very controversial, people like Nick Fuentes that are extremely very controversial. Nick Fuentes will go to prison if stuff like this were to fly in court. So I want this to go all the way up to the Supreme Court if possible, because if it can, I believe that they will say, yeah, no, it may have been provocative, it may have been offensive, it may have been morally wrong for her to have done that, but it's still protected speech. If we were to say that this is not protected speech, then a lot of things will trickle down that will not be protected speech either. So I want this to go far, and I believe she will win in court, no matter how provocative that may sound. I believe in actual freedom of speech, and if you deny her that right, you're denying everybody that right. So let's move on to the appeals court ruling on citizenship. So there's no video on this. So Moncada versus Rubio. Roberto Moncada, who was born in New York City in 1950 and lived most of his life as a U.S. citizen, including obtaining passports and repeatedly affirming allegiance, had his citizenship revoked in 2018. The government concluded that at his birth, Moncada's father held diplomatic immunity as an attaché, meaning Moncada was not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. So Moncada's father served as an attaché, which means he had full diplomatic immunity at the time of Moncada's birth. which is why they ruled that Moncada's citizenship was invalid. That's a really big deal. This is huge. People don't really, again, another story that nobody's talking about. So the Ninth Circuit said the State Department provided a 2020 certificate declaring that Moncada's father was an attaché with full diplomatic immunity when Moncada was born. However, the court held this certificate is not conclusive by itself. Courts may and should examine the broader executive... Are you saying something?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a dog barking.
My bad. And should examine the broader executive record when substantial conflicting evidence exists. Moncada claiming citizenship needed to submit substantial credible evidence that he was a U.S. citizen by birth. Once he met that threshold, the government had to rebut the claim or rebuke the claim by clear and convincing evidence. The court weighed evidence from both sides, evidence supporting attaché status, State's Department blue list, which means that this guy was in the listing of the UN mission registry, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the Ninth Circuit affirmed that lower court's judgment by clear and convincing evidence. Moncada's father served as an attaché, granting him diplomatic immunity, and thus Moncada was not born subject to the U.S. jurisdiction. Consequently, he did not acquire birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The court acknowledged the inequality. The man lived nearly 70 years believing he was a citizen, but emphasized that courts lack the power to remedy such injustices when the constitutional rule is clear. All right, why is this important? Because apparently the 19th Circuit 19th Circuit is an appeals court, and it leans very left. So if a very left-leaning appeals court ruled on what jurisdiction meant when it comes to diplomatic immunity, what makes people think that when the Supreme Court rules on birthright citizenship, that they're not going to repeal, or however you say it, pretty much revoke the Wong versus Ark case? That pretty much is a case that says that if you come here as a tourist or even as a illegal immigrant, then and you have a child, that child becomes a citizen because they were born on U.S. soil. So they are lawful to the U.S. government's laws. But if a left-leaning court literally just redefined what jurisdiction meant with this case, this is gonna become precedent for the Supreme Court when they rule on birthright citizenship. And I predict they will rule, because it's mainly a conservative court, that just because you were born here does not make you a U.S. citizen. You actually have to have a parent that is a citizen, or both parents have to be citizens, or one parent has to be a citizen, another one has to be a resident. But they're going to make a ruling that's going to pretty much say you can't just come here, have a baby, and that baby becomes a citizen when you yourself are not a legal resident or an American citizen yourself. And that's going to be like probably one of the biggest things for the Supreme Court ruling in our history, because it's going to affect and impact a lot of people's lives. But the reality is, citizenship is an allegiance to the country. When you become a citizen, those who are born here don't know this, but when you become a citizen, you actually are pledging. There is a part where you pledge. So there is an allegiance when you become a citizen of a country, and that's any country. That is part of citizenship, is an allegiance to the country. So if there is an allegiance to your country by you being a citizen, then your parents, one of them has to have an allegiance with you in order for you to also have citizenship. So that might be provocative to a lot of people because of the fact that we have allowed anybody to become a citizen regardless of their parents' status. But things change. The laws are interpreted differently depending on the courts. So just because right now the precedent is what it is doesn't mean it cannot be changed. So my prediction, and I'm very confident about this, The Supreme Court will rule that the birthright citizenship of the interpretation of Wong versus Ark will be repealed or revoked, and there will be a new interpretation of birthright citizenship. So we'll see, but I'm probably gonna be right. So let's continue on here. RFK continues to purge the CDC. Let's continue on here. All right, so this is another wild one. Secretary RFK Jr. has initiated a sweeping overhaul of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This includes firing the CDC director, Suzanne Monarez, just weeks after her confirmation following her refusal to align with Kennedy's vaccine policy shift. Critics say his move resulted in an unprecedented exodus of senior officials and protests. However, they're claiming the CDC is now being politicized. But in my opinion, it was already politicized, and that's why these people are leaving. Because they were part of a political ideology that's no longer being accepted, and that's why they're leaving. So dismissing the entire 17-member advisory committee on immunization practices, the panel responsible for establishing vaccine recommendations and replacing it with individuals who are anti-vaccine or have limited expertise, mass layoffs and staff departures, with approximately 2,400 CDC staff terminated or reassigned, about 20% of the workforce, including key roles in infectious disease, expertise, surveillance, and child health programs. Top officials resigning in protest, including Dmitry, I can't say his last name, Daslalakis, whatever, Deborah Howery, Daniel Jernigan, and others, many citing concerns over the politicization of public health and the erosion of science-based guidance. Science-based guidance, that's funny, considering where was the science with the 6 feet apart? Where was the science with the masks? Yeah. Public health funding impacted with shifts away from mRNA vaccine development, removal of COVID vaccine recommendations for children and pregnant women, thank God, and cancellation of advisory committees. All right, let's take a look at that first video, please.
A former top CDC official who resigned this week is blasting Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., saying his policies on vaccines do not reflect scientific reality. Nancy Cordes now on a tumultuous week at America's public health agency.
Secretary Kennedy has been a crown jewel of this administration.
White House officials defended Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today after top CDC officials resigned, accusing him of trying to erode public trust.
It's not political. That's why they're doing like a little protest, but it's not political.
Dmitry Daskalakis and Deb Howery told CBS News that an influential outside panel handpicked by RFK Jr., has been questioning long-settled science on vaccines and promoting unvetted studies.
Based on discussions we had heard, it seemed like some decisions had been made before there was even the data or the science to support those.
They're talking about ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which makes recommendations to the CDC about child and adult vaccine schedules. Local school districts and insurance companies rely on ACIP's advice. Back in June, RFK Jr. dismissed all 17 of ACIP's outside experts and replaced them with 7 new members, at least 4 of whom have expressed some skepticism about vaccines.
CDC is an agency that is very troubled for a very long time.
The allegations have alarmed Republican Senator and Dr. Bill Cassidy, who warned this week that any recommendations made by ACIP should be rejected as lacking legitimacy.
I am supportive of vaccines.
Kennedy vowed in his confirmation hearings not to pursue an anti-vax agenda. But earlier this month, he terminated $500 million in funding for mRNA vaccine research. President Trump did not stand in the way.
He's saying that the risks outweigh the benefits, which puts him at odds with the entire medical community and with you. What is going on?
Well, we're going to look at that. We're talking about it, and they're doing a very good job.
CDC sources.
All right. So that guy that you saw, last the guy that was doing the little protest or whatever, in his resignation, he used pregnant person. Meaning, yeah, in his resignation, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the words he used to make it known what ideology he believes in. He believes men can get pregnant.
Wow.
So,
what biology class did he go to?
What experts are we talking about?
That's
so you
crazy.
mean to tell me that because he claims he's an expert, I'm supposed to believe him when this man believes that a man can get pregnant?
That's crazy.
He literally said it in his resignation, and he said his pronouns too, like what his pronouns are. So they don't talk about that though. They don't talk about the fact that what these people believe in. And it's like, why should you? What's wrong with you bringing people that are skeptical about the vaccines? What's wrong with you bringing people in that are questioning the status quo? Isn't that what science is supposed to be about?
Because they don't want you questioning the status quo.
Right.
Because if you look, you don't probably even have to look that deep to find the cracks, you know?
Like, look, people can make their own decisions on whether they want to take a vaccine or not. We didn't. We didn't take the vaccine. When COVID hit, Laz and I knew, like in our guts, we knew this is BS. This is like, this is all show. This is all theater.
Yep.
I'm not saying people didn't die. I'm saying the way it was rolled out, the way the media was pushing it, the way the CDC was acting, it was so controlled. It was like a controlled operation, you know? And some people rebelled, but most didn't. And those who rebelled were looked at as selfish. We were looked at as people that we didn't care about the safety of other people, which is a manipulation tactic. So you're saying that because I'm choosing what to do with my body, that I'm selfish? Yeah, you're right. I'm selfish because I care about my health. You want to vaccinate yourself? That's your choice. But you're not going to force me to vaccinate myself. So my issue with this is the fact that the CDC lied. It lied about the 6 foot apart BS. It lied about the masks. It lied about the fact that if you take the vaccine, you don't get COVID. That was also a lie. So, but yet these are people that are experts. And yet you continuously lied over and over and over again. And yet when you have somebody coming in who is a disruptor, who's saying, you know what? I don't want any of you guys in here if you're not going to follow my rules. And they left. Why? Because they are not going to follow the new status quo, which is question everything. Question everything. That's what science is literally all about, is questioning everything. If you don't question anything, then are you really a scientist? Like, are you really trying to get to the truth? Are you really trying to get to the answers? Are you really trying to, create actual results in humanity? No. If you're not trying to actually question, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe closing schools for a year was extremely detrimental to kids. Forcing them to wear masks was detrimental to kids. Not allowing them to smile and see people smiling. Like, humans need contact. And experts should know that. But they completely ignored that. So why should we believe that you are really an expert? Especially for somebody who literally thinks that a man can get pregnant. You're a joke. You're a joke. Can you look up that experiment? What is it called? The Milford Project, the Milton Project. Try to look up what that is. We were talking about that earlier, and I couldn't remember the name of that experiment.
Jog my memory again. What was it about?
Just put Milton Project or Milford.
Just tell me what it's about.
Experiment on
trusting people in uniform. Basically.
Yeah, trusting people in white, what do you call that? White cloaks, white jackets. I don't know what you would call that. What doctors wear, whatever you call that. And that's what that was out. That we're gonna find out what the actual name of the experiment is called. But that is literally what the whole COVID saga was about. It was authority figures telling the masses, this is what you ought to do. And people, instead of listening to their intuition, they followed the authority. And when you follow authority blindly, you're going to get hurt because you chose to ignore your gut.
Milgram experiment.
There you go. Okay. Can you explain to us what that is?
Hold on, let me
in a summary, summarize it, because I know that chat probably gave you
long-winded
a whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. So it was an experiment conducted in 1961 at Stanley Milgram, Yale University. The goal was to test how far people would go in obeying an authority figure, even if it meant harming someone else. The setup was a man in a white lab coat, symbolizing authority and science, instructed participants to give increasingly severe electric shocks to a person, who was an actor, for wrong answers. The result was 65% of the participants obeyed to the point of giving potentially lethal shocks. So participants obeyed not because they were evil, but because they trusted the authority figure, symbolized by the lab coat. And the conclusion is people are surprisingly willing to follow orders from someone who appears to be legitimate.
Exactly.
Authority.
So these people that claim they are experts, who appear to be legitimate, lied to us during COVID. And they did it knowingly. And they did it multiple times. And now they have the audacity to say that the CDC is being weaponized against its people. No, CDC was weaponized when COVID was occurring. Because, I don't like the fact that Donald Trump did the whole warp speed with vaccines. I was not okay with that. But at the end of the day, he didn't mandate it. He didn't tell people, no, you have to take this vaccine or else. But the last administration did mandate it. And that affected our lives dramatically, because we had to do a massive pivot when it comes to our lifestyle. So to me, the CDC had been weaponized, and now it's being purged from the weaponization. And people are maybe not okay with it because they, again, are used to the status quo. But just because you're used to something doesn't mean it's good for you. That's where I stand with that. So let's pivot to something very sad that unfortunately happened in Minnesota. A lot of sad things are happening over there. I don't know what's going on in Minnesota, but the trans shooter. Let's talk about that really quick.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's this vaccine thing we didn't see though.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so
nobody
we're
cares
skipping
about
that? Okay.
Nobody cares about Jake Tapper. Yeah, it's
Okay. Got it.
A judge hears arguments in Lisa Cook's lawsuit after President Trump fired her from her role at the Fed. Lydia Hu at the courthouse. Lydia, what are we going to learn today?
Wait.
Well, good morning to you, Stuart. We are going to hear from Fed Governor Lisa Cook, her lawyers, about why they say she deserves to have a restraining order entered at this moment that would basically save her job on a short-term basis and keep her in her role as Fed governor for now while the underlying long-term merits of the litigation continue to play out. But happening just this morning, I want to draw your attention to two filings that were made, Stuart. One filing by the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, chairman, of course, who are taking no position in in this litigation. They're simply asking the judge to make a fast determination. That second filing coming from President Trump himself, opposing Fed Governor Lisa Cook's request for a temporary restraining order. He wants to move forward with her termination and get her up and out of office. At the heart of this case, Stuart, whether the allegations of mortgage fraud made by Federal Housing Finance and Agency Director Bill Pulte amount to cause for Cook's termination. Remember, the statute, the Federal Reserve Act, allows a president to remove a Fed governor only when there is cause. Here, Cook stands accused but not charged of fraud, so she's calling the allegations, quote, a thinly veiled pretext and an attempt to remove Governor Cook over her unwillingness to lower interest rates. But a White House spokesperson, appearing confident that they're going to prevail, they had this to say in a statement, quote, the president exercised his lawful authority to remove a governor who was credibly accused of lying in financial documents from a highly sensitive position overseeing financial institutions. Stuart, I want to highlight one interesting legal angle. Very interesting to see that Cook does not deny misrepresentations and mortgage documents in all of her legal filings so far. Instead, she's suggesting in her briefs that any misrepresentation that has been made was a mistake. That's really important because in order to be liable for fraud, if she were charged, a prosecutor would have to prove that she intended to deceive. That's the mental state requirement. So if her inaccuracies were mistakes, as she says, then Cook would argue she never intended to deceive, therefore she could never be liable for fraud. If a judge today finds that to be credible, that maybe Cook, based on that representation, could be successful on the merits of the underlying lawsuit, that would weigh in Cook's favor to get this restraining order to keep her in her job for now. So I'm going to be hyper-focused on questions about that because now, as of last night, she stands accused of 3 instances of mortgage fraud, 2 referrals to the DOJ, Stuart.
All right, so this is in a nutshell what's going on. In 2021, Lisa Cook took out mortgages on 3 properties: a house in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a condominium in Atlanta, Georgia, and a condominium in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that has been owned since 2002. Allegations arise from her mortgage application. She reportedly labeled both the Michigan and Georgia properties as her primary residence, despite them being in different states and purchased within a short span of time. This could be considered occupancy fraud or misinterpretation to gain more favorable loan terms. Investors and lenders typically assign lower interest rates to primary residences than to rental investment properties. For the Cambridge condo, she reportedly stated on mortgage documentation that it would be a second home, yet later ethics disclosures show that she was collecting rental income from it, a discrepancy that raises questions about whether it was legitimately classified. No criminal or civil charges have been filed against Cook yet. So far, these remain allegations and unproven. Bill Pulte, director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, a Trump appointee, submitted 2 criminal referrals to the Justice Department. First, over how Cook described her Michigan and Georgia properties. Second, over inconsistencies in her description of the Cambridge condo as a second home versus a rental property. President Trump has incited these allegations as for cause jurisdiction to remove Cook from the Federal Reserve Board, an unprecedented move. Cook has responded by filing a lawsuit to challenge the removal, asserting that the allegations lack legal basis. That's crazy. Were known during her Senate confirmation. Yeah, I don't know if they were known in your Senate confirmation. I don't think they paid attention to this. And they should. And if they paid attention, they still confirmed her. That shows that a lot of people don't give a damn about mortgage fraud if it's, people that they want in power. If they don't want you in power, then yeah, you should go to prison. But if they want you in power, then yeah, you can do mortgage fraud, no big deal. So if you sign a document stating that these properties are your secondary home, and you end up actually getting rent money from them, and you're telling the IRS that you're getting rent money, then you lied in the documents when you were getting the loan to buy the properties. If they were going to be investment properties, that's why you're getting rent money from them, then they should have been from the get-go investment properties. There's no way this person made an error, which is what she's claiming. It was a mistake. You made this mistake more than once, And you're not just like a regular average person. You're somebody that's in the finance world. You know what you're doing when it comes to these documents. You mean to tell me that you made a mistake? I'm not buying it. And I don't think the court should be buying it either. And the fact that she doesn't want to leave her post is wild to me, because in the private sector, if you do something that is against policy, they remove you immediately. They don't give you some time to defend yourself. No, they remove you. So why is it when it comes to federal government, anybody in federal government, they have a right, they think they have a right to stay in that position? No, bro. Your boss told you you're fired. That means you're fired. You're gone. You can fight for your position out of your position. But you're not going to stay in your position when there's allegations against you when it comes to mortgage fraud, when you are literally a governor of the Fed board. Like, this is somebody that handles our finances. Like, how does that look? That doesn't look good. And the fact that they're saying, oh, but, you know, this shows that, you know, it shows that the Fed is being politicized because Donald Trump is suing her, and the Fed is supposed to be independent. Bro, the Fed is not independent. The Fed has never been independent. Like, the president appoints the board. How is that independent? They're not independent at all. Like, this idea of independence is an illusion. They're not independent. Because if, put it this way, if the Federal Reserve was independent, that means they can literally have nobody overseeing them. So they can have people like her committing mortgage fraud, and there's no accountability whatsoever because they're independent. They're untouchable. So every other agency, you know, they have to answer to somebody, not the Federal Reserve. Nah, bro. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. That's why you have corruption right there. You can't have a Federal Reserve that is independent when you have people that are literally committing fraud, allegedly. So, and Powell, buddy, this ain't a good look for you, bro. This is not a good look for you. So this, at the end of the day, people are saying, oh, this is just for the ticket. The interest rates are going to go down whether people like it or not. They're going to go down. They're not going to go down maybe in 2 months from now. They're going to go down next year. They're still going to go down. He's still going to get what he wants. So this lady, if she really cared about her position and she really cared about the independence of the Federal Reserve, she would remove herself from her post, stop fighting, and fight in the courts out of her position. Not thinking that she has a right to the position when, again, her boss, Donald J. Trump, said, you're fired. So I don't understand how this is even like complicated, but apparently it is. In the private sector, she would have been long gone. But for some reason, when you're in the government, like, you get to stay in position even after you're fired. I don't get it. So let's move on to more serious things. Even though it's serious, but I think this is more internal. Minnesota trans shooter. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll get into it with that one.
With news breaking out of Minneapolis, there are so many senseless shootings in America, it can almost become horribly easy to get numb to them. Yep. But what happened today was so diabolical, it will be hard to forget. It happened during a mass at a Catholic school for pre-K through 8th grade kids, just 2 days into the new school year. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Police tonight are investigating why a shooter in his early 20s, dressed in black, opened fire through the stained glass windows of the school's church, spraying bullets at children as they sat and prayed in pews.
That's crazy.
2 of those children are dead tonight, and more than a dozen are hurt. The shooter then turned the gun on himself, killing himself and leaving behind a disturbing manifesto. It all happened at around 8:30 local time this morning at Annunciation Catholic Church. It's a private school with around 390 students. Those 2 children who died were only 8 and 10 years old. 17 other people were injured in the shooting, 14 of them children, at least one of them as young as 6. All of them are expected tonight to survive. Just yesterday, these kids were celebrating the start of a new school year, and now they're dealing with unfathomable tragedy. And the rest of us are left asking and wondering what would drive someone to do something so horrific. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara gave some insight into that in an update late this afternoon.
All right. Oh, man. All right. So, it's just heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. So this person obviously suffered from mental health. He was mentally disturbed. There was, you know what, continue that, because it shows something that he wrote in a journal.
The coward that shot these victims took his own life in the rear of the church.
Yeah, he definitely is a coward, but
that coward has been identified as 23-year-old
he would have been able to survive prison
Robin
either.
Westman. No prior criminal history. As to the weapons used to perpetrate this horrific attack, there was a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. All three had been lawfully purchased by the shooter. At this stage, we believe that the shooter had acted alone. There is no indication of other suspects.
As you just heard, the gunman was identified as Robin Westman, but was born Robert Westman and changed his name to Robin when he was 17 years old. The police chief also confirmed the existence of that written manifesto that the gunman also recorded on video and then uploaded online.
We're also aware of a manifesto that the shooter had timed to be released on YouTube. This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings. That content has since been taken down with the assistance of the FBI, and it now remains under active review by our investigators.
We are starting, however, to get images from what we believe to be that recording, and they reveal some very sick and disturbing messages. He wrote, "Kill Donald Trump" on a rifle magazine. In another image, you see the words, "For the children," and in another, "Where is your God?" And then we get a shot of the so-called manifesto itself. Part of it says, "I love you all, I will remember you, pray for the victims and their families." He goes on to say, "I am not well, I'm in pain, I am haunted by these thoughts that do not go away. I've been waiting to do this." He writes, "P.S. I wouldn't recommend any of you to read my journals unless you really want to, but be warned." There are reports he had ties to this school. The New York Times is reporting that the gunman went there, graduated from 8th grade there, and that his mother used to work at the school. Joining me right now is retired Sheriff Rich Static. He was the
Okay. All right, so the parents of this person confirmed that he was trans before he became an adult. There's a lot of people already looking into this person, and it turns out that his mom confirmed, his parents, both mom and dad, confirmed his delusion, and he started his transitioning process before he became 18. Now, a lot of people are going to say that, you know, the trans people are, you know, becoming increasingly violent. And I don't think it's that trans people are becoming increasingly violent. I think that the mental health of people is getting worse. And this is a manifestation of that. Because, you know, I was sort of looking into like mass shootings, and mass shootings started rising just like 10 years ago. Like after the Columbine shooting and then the Sandy Hook shooting, it just got significantly worse, you know, and people want to tie this to race. Like, oh, it's, you know, like the white males are overly aggressive. Like that doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what color they are, because there's black on black crime that happens way more often than mass shootings. It doesn't matter. What matters is, why are these mass shootings happening? Why are people so willing to end people's lives? That's what matters. That's what the root of the problem is. And then leaders and politicians want to say, "Oh, well, we need more gun control." That's not the problem. The problem is who is behind the gun. Is it a person with a sane mind, or is somebody who is mentally disturbed? It's not the gun. The gun doesn't shoot itself. It's the person who decides to pull the trigger. That's where the root cause of the problem is. And people who want to say gun control don't actually want to find out what the root problem is, because they don't really care. They just want to take your Second Amendment right away. Those are the same people who say, "Oh, First Amendment right, burning the flag is a First Amendment right," but they're real quick to remove your Second Amendment right, real quick. So to me, it's not about gun control. You should have a right to defend yourself. You should have a right to defend your body. It has to do with mental health. The amount of people taking antidepressants is insane. I had somebody that I knew personally that was taking antidepressants, and this person admitted to me that they were having thoughts to end their life. And I had to tell this person, it's because you're taking those pills. And they were like, but the doctor prescribed them to me. I go, well, you need to start rethinking what is better for you, not what your doctor is telling you. In her case, I'm not saying that prescriptions are bad, because if you have schizophrenia, you definitely need to be prescribed something. If you have, bipolar disorder, if you have other things, I understand. But if you have anxiety or depression, antidepressants, I don't think should be the first thing you take as a cure, because it's not supposed to cure you.
It's funny because the name is antidepressants, but that's the opposite of what
it does. It doesn't do that.
It makes you depressed, more depressed.
Exactly. It makes you heavily depressed.
And suicidal too.
Exactly. So I personally think that, I'm not saying that there is a correlation between antidepressants and mass shootings. I'm just saying that there is a correlation between the rise of mass shootings that have now become also trans people committing these mass shootings is a sign of severe mental health issues in this country. That's what I'm saying. In men specifically, because the people committing these crimes happen to be males. Regardless of what they identify as, they are biological males and they are victims of mental health. So the root of the problem is what is going on with the psyche of people. What is it that we need to change in the environment for there to be less of this? And I think technology is a big one. People are really stuck to the screen. People are really hooked on pills. And I think that a lot of things can be cured by getting sunlight, drinking water, sleeping, eating healthier, exercising, think meditation, prayer. There are things that we take advantage of and we don't see as something that makes a big impact in our lives, because it's seen as holistic, It's not something that a doctor will prescribe you, But it's good for you. And when leaders like the Minnesota mayor kind of dismissed prayer, it's so demonic to dismiss prayer when 2 lives were just lost. 2 innocent lives were just lost. And you're going to say prayer is not going to do anything? Are you serious? These are people who believe in God. They were just at a church praying, and you're going to say prayer doesn't matter? That to me is...
That's wild.
I mean, again, you have a right to say that, First Amendment right, but as a leader, that is not what you say. These are your people. You don't say that. Instead, you pray with them. The reason why he said it is because he does not believe in God. He doesn't believe in God. He can say he does, but he doesn't really believe in God. There's nobody who will believe in God and will say what that man said. He dismissed God in that moment in time when God was needed the most. To me, prayer is powerful if there is belief behind the prayer. You can pray just to pray. You know, people do it all the time. If you were born into religion, you pray just to pray, and it's like just a thing that you do, like brushing your teeth. But prayer is powerful if there is intent and belief behind the prayer. And to me, when things like this happen, you definitely should have the intent to pray that everything is going to be okay, regardless of what just occurred. You know, it's having the belief that even though this disgusting, despicable thing just happened and these innocent children should not have been killed, they're in a better place. It's a belief. It's a grounding of reality. Instead of this mentality of God is not real, prayer doesn't work, and let's believe in the science. Let's believe in the guys with the lab coats, because they definitely care about you. They care about your health. That's why we have an epidemic of obesity, because they definitely care about our health. So, to me, gun control is not how you fix a problem. Telling people not to pray is not how you fix a problem. Instead, you encourage exercising. You encourage meditation. You encourage actual belief and intent when you pray. Sleeping is very important. People don't sleep. They don't realize how important sleep is. Simple things actually improve our life. And we will realize that Big Pharma has been oppressing our health and our soul. Because this person who committed this atrocity was a human being who was a victim of Big Pharma. And it caused him to do this to himself and to others. Of course, I'm going to blame him. I'm also going to definitely blame his parents, and I'm definitely going to blame Big Pharma, because they are profiting from this. There are many people suffering from anxiety and depression who all they need is love, sunlight, exercise, belief in God, and meditation. And their life will be significantly better, and they won't need these drugs. And I really hope that with this disruption of the CDC and HHS, we start to have a different mindset when it comes to health, and start to actually think what is actually beneficial for our well-being, and actually start questioning what we've been doing this whole time and whether it has been working, because clearly it hasn't. And we're going to end it with, are we going to war with Venezuela? We're going to end it there. Let's take a look at that really quick. It's 4:14. It's up from the beginning. Because they start talking about other stuff, and I want to just talk about the Venezuela.
A usually large naval buildup in Latin America. There's at least 7 vessels down there, 3 guided missile destroyers off the waters of Venezuela. The White House is accusing President Maduro of heading up a drug cartel. Maduro's calling up millions of militia members. He's deploying like 15,000 troops to the Colombia border to defend his country. What does this mean to all of you? Because I know one of the things that we've seen at the southern border over the last 4 years has been an inordinate amount of Venezuelans.
Well, exactly right. And this is if you kind of look back the last 4 years, I mean, Venezuela allowed hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans into our country that crossed through Texas, to include now the designated foreign terrorist organization known as TDA. And we've seen what these terrorist organizations have caused in our country, how it's impacted U.S. citizens' lives. Some have committed heinous crimes to include murder. But the fact is that now we're seeing more of an aggressive posture by the United States. And again, the cartels are going to exploit, vulnerabilities, especially in countries like Venezuela when there's instability. They're going to use those countries to smuggle large shipments of drugs, whether it be cocaine, methamphetamine, or fentanyl. So by having these U.S. naval ships, it's going to interdict those drugs before they actually make it to Central America or Mexico, and then ultimately into our country. So again, this really shows how the administration, how the United States is really taking a more proactive posture and trying to interdict these large shipments of drugs by the cartels. Again, the cartels are going to adapt, as you mentioned earlier. They're going to adapt to the changes. We may not see the level that we saw the last 4 years because they have been impacted, as you mentioned, also by human smuggling. There was a multi-billion-dollar criminal network for the cartels. That has decreased significantly. So now what they're going to do is increase their shipments of cocaine, methamphetamine, other illicit drugs by using the sea or the coastal water, especially in the Caribbean, to get their drugs across the United States. So again, really shows the proactiveness from this administration, how they are working to try to stop these large shipments of drugs, but also how we also on the ground in Texas, we are the last line of defense when it comes to these type of operations, because we want to stop that flow of drugs making their way into our state as well, and also to the entire country.
And that's why they put so much focus on the tunnels in Arizona.
Yeah, the tunnels in Arizona, they're also, okay. So it's crazy that we were having this conversation the other day, and I was talking about this on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. By the way, subscribe, like, and share, guys. Subscribe, like, and share. It's going to help our show. And those of you who have already subscribed, I appreciate you. So I was talking about this on Instagram the other day, how the amount of money that they make off of human smuggling is like crazy. It's almost $1 trillion. It's like, is it $1 billion industry? Or is it $1 trillion industry, human smuggling? Laz? Talk to me. Oh, I thought you were listening, bro.
No, sorry.
The human smuggling, is that $1 billion business or is that $1 trillion business?
That's a great question. That's probably $1 trillion business because it's worldwide.
It's worldwide, right? Okay. So you're going to confirm that. But let's say it's $1 billion business. No, okay, that's human smuggling alone is $1 billion business. And then you have drugs. Also, another.
Human smuggling or human trafficking?
I mean, it's the same thing.
No, it's not.
What's the difference? You're still trafficking.
There's two different names. Well, when you're smuggling, you're taking one person from one place to another. When you're trafficking, you're doing that and you're like literally selling them for sex.
Okay, so both human smuggling and human trafficking. And then you got the drugs they're also smuggling. And then if you cut, like, this is the part that really irks me, because people voted for Kamala Harris. And what bothers me about that is that you voted for somebody that allowed human smuggling and human trafficking to happen for 4 years. So if you're about like helping humanity and you're claiming that you believe that people should come here for a better life and you want to be humanitarian, then why would you allow something like an open border where the cartels can literally exploit that and they can just send people over here? So to me, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, it's counterproductive to say I'm for humanity and I want people to come here for a better life while simultaneously allowing an open border policy, which is what Kamala Harris did when she was in power. She was considered border czar. So, and she was supposed to find the root of the problem, which never happened. So all she did was allow the cartels to make more money. That's really what she did. So to me, Trump is stopping the cartels from making money. That is very like cutthroat. He stopped the flow of human trafficking. He stopped the flow of human smuggling. They're now looking for these missing children that happened under the Biden-Harris administration. They're now looking through these tunnels to see what they're going to find there. God forbid, God knows what they find in those tunnels. And now they're going into the sea because at the end of the day, they use the sea to, again, smuggle drugs. So
it's sorry to cut you off. It's $1 billion industry.
$1 billion?
Multi-billion.
Okay. Multi-billion.
In the
dollar.
hundreds of billions.
All right. So very close to trillions then. Multi-billions? That's pretty.
Not anywhere near.
Not anywhere near?
It's more like, human trafficking in itself can be from 150 to 245 billion
That's
a year.
Crazy, bro.
A year. Human smuggling is a lot less, 6.6 billion.
That's still a lot, man.
Yeah.
This is like,
it's a lot, yeah. That's a lot.
This is big.
Sure.
This is big business, like
yeah.
big.
I mean, 300 bill a year. So
big. So people, when they say Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, like, okay, so what do you want? You want the cartels to continue smuggling meth, crack, cocaine? We have a mental health problem. How are you going to fix it if you're going to continue to allow drugs to be smuggled through the border? People complain about what we're doing to crack down on drugs, what we're doing to crack down on lawlessness. And it's like, okay, you criticize it, but what is your approach? You don't have an approach. You're just criticizing the approach that is happening right now. But at the end of the day, the intent is we don't want drugs in the streets. We don't want people homeless. They need to be in shelters because that is humane. We don't want more people hooked on drugs because we have a mental health problem. And because we have a mental health problem in this country, allowing drugs to come here is not going to improve the problem. It's going to worsen the problem. So you cut the drugs, you cut the tunnels. That's going to, I think, control the situation, because at the end of the day, mental health is the problem. If we didn't have a mental health problem, nobody would be seeking drugs. People are seeking drugs because they have a mental health problem. They're escaping their reality. So if you want to attack the problem, you have to literally remove the escape routes of the problem in order to get to the problem, to get to the target. And I think what's happening right now is exactly what needs to happen. You need to go after these countries that are literally exploiting the Americans and the mental health crisis in this country, because that's what they're doing. They know that Americans, unfortunately, are hooked on drugs. A lot of them are hooked on drugs, and they're taking advantage of Americans. Were you gonna say something? Oh, okay. I don't know why I keep thinking you're gonna say something. I feel like you're trying to send me some mental signals.
No,
and I'm not connecting.
No, I'm just,
he's like, no.
I got something going on over here.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I mean, that's what I think. I think that if you want to actually improve the well-being and the mental health of your country, you have to remove drugs from the equation, and that is how you do it. You remove the cartels, you remove the organizations, you regulate big pharma, because that definitely needs to happen, but they're not the biggest problem right now. I think the biggest problem right now are the actual illegal drugs. So, because at the end of the day, big pharma is legal. So it's not something that's a first priority. The first priority is cartels, tunnels, border. That needs to be actually targeted and prioritized. And if Colombia and Venezuela and Mexico are the ones who are getting involved in this, you're asking for real war on drugs. Like, the true war on drugs is stopping these countries from allowing drugs to pour in and make the mental health crisis worse, because that's what they're doing, and they're profiting off of it. So I am actually applauding this, and to be honest with you, I think they should go a little more aggressive, because Venezuela thinks they can just puff their chest. So I think they need to be more aggressive on this. Same thing when it comes to Mexico, Colombia, any country that wants to try to play hardball here when they're a third world country. You need to learn who the real boss is, and it's the United States of America. So thank you guys for tuning in, those who did. I appreciate you guys for watching and subscribing. Like, share, and subscribe if you are a truth seeker. Subscribe to Married Truth Talks, and I will see you guys next time.
All right. Sorry, my mom was texting me that my uncle needs my help.